Good morning, YouTube. Well, some more major corruption is taking place in the state of Ohio. These red light traffic cameras, which I've did a few different videos of before. Apparently the Ohio State Supreme Court has apparently sided with the cities in the state, in regards to their lawsuits about the the legality of these cameras, saying they can't be monitored, that they're not required to have a police officer monitor them. And this intersection right here, Main and Hillcrest, this used to be, it probably still is, one of the most dangerous intersections in the city for crime. So it looks like, knowing the city leaders, these are gonna be turned right back on. But here, I'm going to show you guys the sign here, red light photo enforcement. When I did the previous videos on this, I did the one on Salem Avenue a couple times, and then the one on then the one on Valley and Stanley. But what's ultimately going to end up happening here, folks, and the Supreme Court, apparently, the way that they interpreted it, their ruling as that home rule, that cities have the right to govern themselves, that home rule, I guess, in some cases supersedes state law, which, take that for what you want, as far as take that for what it's worth. But yeah, that's how they interpreted what they were saying, that home rule, home rule, I guess in at least some cases, supersedes state law. I guess you could kind of compare that to, like, state law can supersede federal law, even though it's not supposed to. Although I am a firm believer in returning power to the people. But of course, our stupid jack-off mayor of the city, Nan Whaley, which I've ranted about that bitch over and over again, and yet she wants to run for governor. She said, oh, well, he said it was good that the Supreme Court recognized that the power is returned to the city and to the people. Well, for one thing, Nan Whaley, you stupid piece of shit bitch, if you really cared about the people here in Dayton, as well as the mayors of several other cities across Ohio, you would turn off these stupid cameras, as we clearly do not want them here. You would respect the wishes of the people and just end this program. You see, people, what ultimately ends up happening, and of course, what's going to happen is these politicians, they sell these snake oil programs in to the people, and of course people are dumb enough to believe it. Then ultimately what happens, then once the people try and get them removed, we have to go through all kinds of hell just to get them removed. We've had to go through several courts, and apparently this Supreme Court decision in Ohio didn't appear split on party lines, because they ultimately ruled in a 5-2 decision that the cities, that they have the ability to govern themselves, that supersedes state law. But but as citizens, we have to start being more vigilant and realize that when they try and force these snake oil programs upon us, that when they say all the something's for public safety, the same old bullshit that they sold people on when this law was introduced, we just have to simply say no. That's just all there is to it, because ultimately what I'm afraid is well, I'm not afraid, but ultimately what's going to happen is, the only way to ultimately get rid of these is to have a statewide referendum on the ballot for next year, for 2018, November of 2018. That's ultimately what it's going to take, because even if Because even if some politicians that have some power in the state threaten to withhold the money from the cities that still want to run these, you know, ultimately, that's ultimately going to face more legal challenges in court. Then the cities are going to continue to file lawsuits and motions, you know, saying that that's not even legal. Then ultimately what's going to happen is the voters are going to have to ultimately shoot these down. I'm talking about these red light cameras. They need to get rid of them. But what's going to end up happening is the voters are going to have to defeat this in the fall of 2018 as a statewide referendum. And you know, I'm sure that, you know, given the way that people hate these, there's going to be more than enough signatures and votes to go on the ballot to get rid of these damn things. And I'm sure the city leaders, you know, are going to whine and scream, you know, if it does get placed on the ballot, which I am making a prediction right now, it will get placed on the ballot. It will be a statewide referendum next year. I don't see any way that they can keep it off the ballot as far as if people want to contest the ultimate legality of these cameras is to ultimately, you know, we have to put it up, we have to vote for it, and ultimately, you know, due to the issues with the courts, that's the ultimate way to ultimately get rid of them, is to ultimately have a statewide, you know, referendum on the ballot where the citizens get to decide once and for all, are they legal or are they not? But even then, there still is a possibility where the Supreme Court or some stupid judge can even still fuck with us then and say, oh, you know what, that's not legal, citizens don't have the authority to do that. I'm like, and if by chance that does happen, we need to vote them judges out of office and get rid of them if they do not want to respect the will of the people and the people that govern them. We need to get rid of these politicians. And whether it's politicians or judges, they gotta go. Because you know what? We should not be required to go to extreme measures to get rid of these stupid things like red light, you know, traffic cameras. But I haven't heard when they're coming back on yet. But I'm sure it's gonna happen anytime. I'm sure within the next few months, or probably sooner than that, they're gonna turn these cameras back on, you know, and despite the people not wanting them here, but the city leaders here don't give a fuck if the people don't want these damn cameras or not. So ultimately, we got to get rid of all of them. If they do not want to respect the will of the people, we got to get rid of these damn politicians and judges that keep allowing stupid shit like this, that want to sell, you know, snake oil shit to people who are not smart enough, who are not intelligent enough to stop believing crap that when a politician tries to tell you that that something is being done for safety, because it's not. There's always hidden ulterior motives of my hidden ulterior motives, which has been a major focus of my page for the last few years, is try and see through the BS and the ulterior motive of these corrupt politicians that we have in office. But anyway, you know, it's time that, you know, but ultimately this is going to end up being on the ballot next November, and looks like that's what it's going to take to get rid of them. But that's it for this one.